The stars were shining like quiet lights across the black sky, and the Galactic Unity Summit had begun. This was not just any meeting. It was the biggest gathering in the galaxy. Leaders and envoys from more than 70 different alien species came together to speak about peace, trade, and alliances. The place where they met, the Citadel Arc, was a massive space station, floating high above the planet Orcs. Its white halls stretched for miles, filled with alien sounds, colors, and languages. Most who came to the summit were strong, tall, and powerful. Some could breathe fire. Some had metal skin. Others floated instead of walking. But today, someone very different stepped through the glowing doors of the main hall. A human. He looked almost small next to the wide shoulders and thick arms of the other species. His name tag read, Toma of Earth. He wore a simple gray suit with a translator badge on his chest. His eyes were calm, and his walk was quiet. Many turned to look. "Is that one of the fragile ones?" whispered a tall creature with horns. "Humans, aren't they the ones with soft bones?" said another. "I heard they cry when they lose a friend," laughed a voice nearby. Toma heard the whispers, but he didn't respond. He simply walked to his seat at the long crescent table in the middle of the room. He sat down, opened his folder, and waited. At the back of the room stood Princess Mira of the Hekari Empire. She was taller than most, her armor a shining silver blue. She had been raised for war. Her people were known as the Iron Blood. Her father had fought 3 Star Wars before she was born. Mira had never lost a battle, not even once. She watched the human with interest. His hands were small, his skin thin, his shoulders narrow. He had no visible weapons, no claws, no tail, not even scales, yet something about him made her pause. "He'll break if someone sneezes on him," said Varen, one of her guards. Mira gave no reply. Her eyes stayed on the human. Soon, the first session of the summit began. A tall being from the Vorn Coalition stood and began to speak. His voice rumbled like thunder. "The mining rights on Sector 12 belong to us," he said. "We claimed the moon 7 cycles ago." Another envoy, this one from the Zuriel Swarm, stood up. Her eyes glowed like burning coals. "Your ships entered our space," she said. "Sector 12 is not yours." Voices rose. Fists slammed on the table. Tensions climbed higher and higher. Then, quietly, Toma stood. He wasn't tall. His voice wasn't loud. But something about the way he spoke made everyone listen. "May I ask something?" he said. The room fell silent. "What would peace cost you," Toma said, "if you never tried?" No one spoke. The Vorn envoy looked confused. The Zuriel delegate tilted her head. Toma looked at them both. "Your people have lost lives in battle. So have theirs. You both have families waiting back home. If neither of you is ready to move even one step toward peace, then how long will this fight continue? 10 years? 50? He paused. "Maybe the question isn't who owns Sector 12, he said. "Maybe it's what you're willing to lose over it." The silence in the room was deep now. Then, to everyone's surprise, the Vorn envoy sat down. "We will consider talks," he said. The Zuriel followed. "So will we." A soft murmur moved across the hall. Some looked impressed, others looked confused. Mira simply stared at the human. He hadn't yelled. He hadn't threatened. He hadn't even moved from his spot. And yet, he had done what no one else could. He had ended a shouting match with a few simple words. Later that night, in the quiet of her private quarters, Mira stood near the window. The stars outside the glass glowed like fireflies in the dark. She thought of the human, Toma. She said the name softly. It was strange on her tongue. He was not fast. He was not strong. But he had something else, something she could not name. "What are you?" she whispered. Far below, Earth's moon blinked into view on the long-range screen, small, soft, and strangely important. End of Part 1. The morning light on the Citadel Arc was soft and blue, created by the artificial suns floating in the high dome ceiling. Delegates from across the stars moved through the long glass halls. Talks had started early. Today's topic was a serious one: how to stop illegal mining in free space zones. Toma of Earth sat quietly at his desk. His face was calm, his eyes focused. He was reading a report on his screen, but he looked up when he heard his name being whispered. "There he is," said a short, spiny diplomat with blinking eyes. "The soft-skinned one who stopped the fight. Maybe it was luck," said another. "Words only go so far." Toma didn't react. He was used to being overlooked, laughed at, or ignored. Even Earth's own allies had doubts. Humans were new to the galactic unity. They didn't have big fleets. They didn't have warriors. But they had something else. Understanding. Toma believed words could change a room faster than weapons. From across the hall, Princess Mira stood near her table, arms crossed, helmet under one arm. She watched Toma again. She wasn't sure why. There was something about the way he held himself. He didn't act like he needed to prove anything. "He's just sitting there," said Varen, her guard. "Not even taking notes. He is watching." Mira replied softly. Varen looked confused. "Watching what?" "Everything," she answered. A large door opened and a tall official entered the hall. He wore the silver and black robe of the Unity Council. "We now begin the next session," he said. The topic: the Black Ice Conflict. This was a frozen belt of asteroids rich in rare minerals. Two minor species had claimed it, the Jun and the Tolik. A battle was close. Warships were already near the edge of the belt. Again, someone muttered. As the leaders began to argue, Toma raised his hand. Some ignored him. Others rolled their eyes. But the council official nodded. "Toma of Earth, you may speak." Toma stood slowly. He didn't shout. He didn't raise his arms. But his voice was clear. "I've read your claims. Both sides are using ancient star maps to prove ownership. But the stars have shifted since then. What once was yours," he looked at the Jun, "is now closer to Tolik's space." The room went quiet again. "If you fight over old maps," he said, "then you are fighting ghosts." A quiet hum of voices filled the room. "I suggest something else," he continued. "Share the belt. Build a joint station. Split the profits. Your children won't care who own only what you left behind." The Tolik ambassador blinked slowly. "We had not considered this," the Jun leader grunted. "Neither had we." For the second time in 2 days, a battle was stopped before it began. Later that evening, as the halls emptied, Mira found herself walking toward the Earth delegation room. She didn't plan to. Her feet moved on their own. The door was half open. Inside, Toma was working alone. No guards, no staff, just him and a small glowing screen. He looked up and smiled gently. "Princess Mira," he said. "You know my name. You stood at the back of the hall, quiet, but watching. I remember eyes like that." She raised an eyebrow. "And what do my eyes say? You're not here to laugh at a fragile human." She stepped inside, her armor clicking softly. "No," she said. "I came to understand you." Toma tilted his head. "Why?" "Because warriors win battles with blades," she said. "But you win them with words. I've trained my whole life to lead armies. And you sit at a table and make powerful races listen." "How?" Toma leaned back. "I listen first," he said. "Then I speak." Mira frowned slightly. "That sounds too simple." "Simple," he said, "is often stronger than we think." There was a silence between them. Not an awkward one. A thoughtful one. Mira looked around. "You have no guards. I have no enemies here. Are you not afraid someone could hurt you?" He smiled. "Maybe. But fear shouldn't be the reason we build walls. It should be the reason we build bridges." Mira stared at him for a long moment. No one had ever said that to her, I think. She said slowly, "You are not weak. You are different." "Thank you," he said. As she turned to leave, her hand brushed his lightly. Just a small moment, not even a full touch. She pulled back quickly. "Forgive me." Toma shook his head. "You didn't do anything wrong." She looked down at her hand. Her fingers were calloused, her gloves worn from training. His were soft, but steady. Why did that moment stay in her thoughts even after she returned to her quarters? That night, Mira couldn't sleep. She stood again near the wide window of her private room. She looked out at the stars, but her thoughts weren't on her next speech or her empire. They were on a small man from a small planet who changed rooms with words and made her a warrior wonder if strength had more than one meaning. End of Part 2. The third day of the Galactic Unity Summit began with loud voices and curious eyes. Everyone in the Citadel Arc was talking about the same thing, the trials of proof. It was an old tradition. Every species had to send one delegate to take part. The trials were not battles, but tests of mind, skill, and heart. No weapons, no real danger. But still, many feared it. Losing the trial meant losing respect. Most species sent their strongest, fastest, or smartest. The Earth team, however, had only one member. Toma. When his name was called, many laughed softly. A human, whispered a three-eyed creature. They'll be crushed, said another. Toma stood and bowed. He walked slowly to the trial gate. His steps were steady, his hands calm. His gray suit didn't shine. He didn't wear armor. He didn't need to. In the crowd above, Princess Mira sat beside her council. Her fingers tapped the side of her seat. Toma is going into the trial. Varen asked beside her. Yes, she said. He'll fail. Mira didn't answer. She didn't look away from the gate. The arena was wide and ever-changing. It was made by machines that could create any challenge: puzzles, mazes, traps, and more. A voice spoke from the air. Trial 1, the path of balance. Before Toma, a bridge appeared. It stretched across a deep, glowing pit, but the bridge was broken in places. Some pieces moved, others tilted. A loud alien stepped up first. He ran hard, leaping from tile to tile. But halfway through, he missed a step and fell. The safety field caught him, but he was out of the trial. Toma stepped forward. He didn't run. He crouched. He studied the bridge. Then, slowly, carefully, he began to walk. He tested each step before putting weight on it. He waited for moving tiles to turn. His eyes never rushed. His hands stayed wide to balance. He reached the other side without falling once. The crowd went silent for a moment. Then a quiet cheer began to rise. Mira allowed herself a small smile. Trial 2, the room of shifting walls. This time, the test was a puzzle. A large room of moving walls and mirrors. The goal was to find the real door, not the reflection. Many ran straight in, bumping into glass or turning in circles. Toma stood still. He watched the lights. He noticed that real reflections were never perfect. He touched the ground, watching how the floor pattern changed in each mirror. Then, he walked toward a small wall in the corner. It looked like glass but wasn't. He tapped once. Open. Another success. In the crowd. Some of the earlier critics were now quiet. He's not fast, said one. But he sees things we don't, said another. Mira leaned forward. He doesn't just see, she whispered. He understands. Trial 3, the choice. This was the final test. No puzzle, no race, just one question. Inside the room were 2 cages. In one cage was a small alien creature, young, afraid, shaking. In the other cage was a strange glowing stone. The stone was a unity crystal, a rare item said to increase a planet's status in the council. Taking it would help Earth gain power, trade, and respect. The rules were simple. You could only open one cage. Toma stood between them. He looked at the crystal. Then he looked at the creature. Still frightened, without speaking, he walked to the creature's cage and opened it. The little alien looked up at him with wide, thankful eyes. The crystal vanished. So did the walls. Toma had passed. But more than that, he had proven who he was. When he returned to the main hall, many stood and clapped. Even species who had mocked him before now looked at him with new eyes. Mira stood as well, but she didn't clap. Instead, she walked straight toward him. Toma looked up, surprised. Mira stopped a few steps away. You could have taken the crystal. She said, Why not? Toma looked thoughtful. Because power can wait, he said. But kindness shouldn't. Mira studied him. That was your first trial. He nodded. Yes. She smiled just a little. You passed more than a test. Human. He bowed gently. Thank you, Princess. Mira didn't reply. She reached out as if to say something, but pulled her hand back. Not yet. Not now. But something had changed. She could feel it, that night. While stars blinked across the great window of her quarters, Mira sat alone. She had seen warriors fight. She had seen generals command fleets. But today, she had seen something different. A human small, soft, and quiet had won not with strength, but with wisdom, and in doing so, had changed the minds of dozens. She looked down at her hand, the one she almost reached out with Dot, and for the first time, she wondered, why did I want to? End of part 3. The stars outside the Citadel Arc blinked quietly, like tiny eyes watching from far away. Inside, the halls were filled with soft lights and voices. The third day of the Galactic Unity Summit had ended, but many delegates stayed behind to talk, to walk, or simply to think. Toma of Earth stood on one of the quiet sky decks, far from the main hall. He looked up at the stars, hands resting lightly on the rail. His gray suit fluttered slightly in the artificial breeze. He liked this place. It reminded him of Earth's night sky, calm, open, full of questions. Dot behind him, the door opened with a soft hiss. He turned. Dot. It was Princess Mira. Dot. Her armor shone even in the low light. Her long braid fell over one shoulder. Her steps were strong, but her face, it was not hard like usual. Tonight, she looked curious. You're alone, she said. Toma nodded. Sometimes quiet helps me think. She walked to the railing and stood beside him. They looked out at the stars in silence for a while. You surprised many people today, Mira said at last. I wasn't trying to, he replied. I just tried to do the right thing. That's what surprised them. He smiled gently. I suppose that says something about this summit. She looked at him. You really believe peace is stronger than war? Yes. What if the enemy doesn't want peace? Then I still choose to try, he said. Mira studied his face. His eyes were soft, but there was strength behind them. Not the strength of muscle but of choice. I was trained to fight from the age of 5, she said quietly. I broke my first blade before I turned 7. My teachers said kindness was a weakness, that soft hearts lead to broken empires. Toma didn't respond right away. Maybe they were afraid of being soft themselves, he said finally. She looked down at her gloved hands. Have you ever held a weapon? She asked. Toma nodded. Once. For defense. I never used it. Mira took off one of her gloves slowly. Her hand was rough, marked with tiny scars from years of training. She reached out, then stopped halfway. You're not wearing armor, she said. I don't have any, he replied. Then how do you protect yourself? He looked at her hand, halfway between them. I try to understand people before I need to protect myself from them. Silence hung between them, not empty, but full of meaning. Then, softly, Mira placed her hand on the railing just beside his. Their fingers did not touch, but the space between them felt smaller. Elsewhere in the Citadel, whispers were spreading. Did you hear about the human in the trials? He chose a creature over power. He passed all 3 tests. Even the Hecary princess spoke to him. The news moved fast. By the next morning, many species began to greet Toma with nods or short words of respect. Some even asked for his thoughts on trade or peace. He never acted proud. He always listened first. That's what made them curious. That's what made them trust him. In the main chamber, the Unity Council gathered again. A new topic had come, the Dreth issue. The Dreth were a quiet species, cold, sharp, and rarely involved in galactic matters. But recently, small mining ships had gone missing near Dreth territory. No proof, only suspicion. We cannot blame without facts, one elder said. But we must not ignore danger, said another. As the voices grew louder, Mira noticed something strange, a small blinking light on her tablet. She tapped it, and a message opened. Unusual energy readings near Cargo Bay 12. Source unknown. She frowned. It wasn't related to the discussion, but something felt off. She looked toward Toma. He was seated calmly, listening. Then she made a choice. Minutes later, Mira moved quickly through the lower halls of the Citadel Arc. Varen followed behind her. Princess, this area is restricted, he said. I have reason to believe something is wrong. When they reached Cargo Bay 12, the door was slightly open. Mira drew her small side blade not to attack, but to be ready inside. Strange tools and broken parts were scattered. Someone had been working here secretly. In one corner, a device hummed quietly. Mira approached it, her eyes narrowed. A disruption. Bomb, small, hidden, and meant to go off during a council session. She turned sharply. Get the engineers, seal this room. Now, back in the chamber, Thomas stood when he saw Mira return. She walked straight to the council table and spoke clearly. There was a bomb, she said, set near the main chamber. Gasps and whispers filled the air. Who? Someone asked. Mira placed a small piece of Dreth-made metal on the table. I found this beside the device. Eyes turned toward the Dreth envoy, who remained silent. The council began to argue again, but Mira turned to Toma. I believe you once said, understanding is the first shield. He nodded. Then let's not draw swords yet, she said. After the meeting, Mira and Toma stood together again. You trusted me, she said. You trusted me first, he replied. She looked down at her hand again. This time, she didn't hesitate. Slowly, she reached out and took his hand in hers. His fingers were warm. Hers were strong. I've never held hands with someone like this, she admitted softly. I've never stood beside a warrior princess, he said with a smile. They both looked out at the stars again. Not as enemies, not as leaders, but as to people learning what it meant to trust. And somewhere deep inside, both of them felt it. Something new had begun. End of part 4. The talks between the Galactic Unity Council and the unknown fleet stretched into the second day. The small chamber inside Zarn's ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the calm voices of the negotiators. Mira sat tall, her armor shining under the dim lights. Across from her, Zarn watched with glowing eyes, serious but curious, and beside her, Toma remained calm, speaking with steady confidence. We want to understand your people, Mira said. Tell us why you approached the borders. Zarn's voice was deep. Our home was destroyed. The greed of others pushed us into space. We had no choice but to move forward. Toma nodded. We have heard stories like yours. Earth itself faced great dangers once. Zarn's gaze softened just a little. But how do we trust those who call themselves friends? He asked. Mira looked at Toma. He smiled and replied, trust begins with truth and actions, not words alone. Zarn was silent. Then, he stood. I will take you to my people, he said. The next part of the journey was through the unknown fleet's largest ship. It was unlike any vessel Mira or Toma had seen. Smooth, dark metal, shaped like a giant crescent moon. Inside, they saw families young and old moving quietly through corridors. Children played near windows that showed the stars. People shared food, told stories, and repaired their homes with care. Mira was surprised. This was not a fleet of enemies. It was a home for lost souls. Toma walked beside her, whispering, people want peace even when their past is full of pain. When they reached the heart of the ship, Zarn showed them a large crystal. It glowed softly with blue light. This is our source of energy, Zarn explained. It powers everything. Without it, we cannot survive. Mira looked at the crystal carefully. It is beautiful, like the Unity crystal, but stronger. Zarn nodded. Yes, we protect it fiercely. Later, Mira and Toma met with Zarn's Council of Elders. The room was simple but full of wisdom. We want to join the Galactic Unity, Zarn said, but we need your help to rebuild our world. Mira spoke for the first time. The Unity was built on peace, respect, and help. We will stand with you, Toma added, and we will learn from each other. Together, we are stronger. The elders nodded slowly. Hope filled the room. Back on the Citadel Ark, news of the talks spread fast. Many species were still afraid. Old stories of war ran deep in their minds. But Mira and Toma worked hard. They met with leaders, shared stories of the unknown fleet's kindness, and showed proof of their peaceful mission. Slowly, the council began to change, one by one. Voices shifted from fear to hope. One evening, Mira invited Toma to the sky deck. Again, the stars shone bright. You have changed many minds, she said. Toma smiled. We changed each other. Mira looked at him with new respect. Tell me, human, what is the greatest strength of your people? Toma thought for a moment. Our heart. We can fall, but we get back up. We can be fragile, but also full of hope. Mira took his hand again. Maybe that is why I wanted to hold your hand. He squeezed hers gently. The final challenge came when a group of radicals from another species tried to stop the unity talks. They planted another device near the council hall. Mira and Toma worked quickly with the guards to find and stop the threat. During the search, Mira was caught in a small explosion. The blast threw her back, and her armor cracked. Toma rushed to her side. Are you hurt? She smiled weakly. A little, but I'm fine. He helped her up. You are stronger than you look, he said. She laughed softly. And you are braver than you know. The incident only made the council stronger. The attacks showed why peace was needed, not war. When Mira stood before the council again, her voice was firm. We must unite, not divide. Our future depends on trust and courage. Toma joined her, and the future starts with us, together. They led the council to accept the unknown fleet into the galactic unity. As the summit ended, Mira and Toma stood together, looking out at the stars once more. We did it, Mira said quietly. Yes, Toma replied. Together. They smiled, knowing the real journey was just beginning. End of part 6. The morning light inside the Citadel Arc was bright and cold, shining through tall windows and casting long shadows on the polished floor. The atmosphere was tense. After the discovery of the bomb, the Galactic Unity Council was in full alert. Guards had been doubled. Security checks were everywhere. But the questions were louder than ever. Who wanted to start a war? Why? And most importantly, what was the next move? In the main chamber, delegates argued heatedly. The Dreth envoy remained calm but silent, eyes fixed on the floor. Suspicion swirled like a storm. At the center of it all sat Toma and Princess Mira. Their recent closeness had become noticeable, and many whispered about the human and the warrior princess. Mira ignored the gossip. She had more important things to do. She leaned toward Toma. We can't let this event divide us, she said quietly. Toma nodded. Division is what the real enemy wants. Mira's eyes narrowed. Then we find the enemy later. Away from the chamber, Mira and Toma met in a small, secure room. We need answers, Mira said. Toma agreed. I will speak with some of the delegates, see if anyone heard or saw something unusual. Mira looked thoughtful. I will ask the council guards and review the security records. Together, they began their search. Toma moved through the halls with quiet confidence. Some delegates greeted him with nods or soft smiles now. His reputation had grown. He stopped by a small group of merchants from the planet Zeller. They spoke nervously about strange shipments and secret meetings. Have you noticed anything unusual lately? Toma asked. One merchant, a short and thin man named Gara, looked around and whispered, some ships come and go at night. They avoid the usual routes. We think they carry forbidden goods. Toma listened carefully. Do you know who controls these ships? Gara shook his head. No, but they don't belong to any known fleet. Toma thanked him and moved on. Meanwhile, Mira studied the security footage with the captain of the guards. She noticed strange patterns. Look here, the captain said, pointing at the screen. There are blind spots, areas where the cameras shut down briefly. Exactly when? Mira asked. During the night of the bomb's arrival. Mira frowned. Someone planned this carefully. At dinner that evening, the Citadel's dining hall buzzed with voices. But Mira and Toma sat together, discussing their findings. We're close, Toma said. But this enemy is clever. Mira nodded. And dangerous. If they want war, they will not stop here. Toma looked up at the stars visible through the glass ceiling. We need more than courage, he said. We need trust between us all. Mira smiled softly. And that is something I'm learning from you. Suddenly, a messenger arrived with a sealed message. Mira opened it quickly. Her eyes widened. The bomb was just the beginning, she read aloud. There's a fleet moving towards the Unity borders. Unknown ships, hostile. The hall fell silent. The next hours were filled with urgent meetings. The Unity Council debated fiercely. Prepare defenses, some shouted. Wait, we must try to communicate first. Others argued. Mira stood beside Toma and raised her hand. We must do both, she said firmly. Prepare for defense, but send a peace envoy first. Toma added, if we rush to war, the enemy wins. The council slowly agreed. As night fell, Mira and Toma prepared their small envoy ship. They would go to meet these unknown ships, risking their lives for a chance at peace. Before leaving, Mira took Toma's hand. Are you ready? She asked. He smiled. For peace, always. The ship hummed as it lifted off. Outside, the stars watched silently. The unknown fleet was dark and quiet. Their ships were strange in shape, sharp like blades. Mira and Toma's envoy ship approached carefully. A signal came through. Identify yourselves. Toma spoke calmly. We are from the Galactic Unity. We come in peace. Seconds passed. Then, a voice answered. We do not seek war, but we will defend our home. Mira stepped forward. Then let us find a way to avoid conflict. Inside the command ship of the unknown fleet, Mira and Toma met their leader. A tall figure with glowing eyes. My name is Zarn, the leader said. We were forced from our world by greed and war. We seek only to survive. Mira nodded. Then we can help, but only if we trust each other. Zarn looked at Toma. You speak well for a fragile species. Toma smiled gently. Fragile? Maybe. But sometimes the fragile hold the strongest hope. Zarn considered this after a long pause. He said, we will talk. As the talks began, Mira and Toma worked together, she with her strength and command, he with his calm words and patience. Slowly, walls fell, fear softened, a new hope grew. For the first time, two very different species faced a future without war. End of Part 5. The Galactic Unity Summit had ended, but its echoes remained in the hearts of many. The Citadel arc was alive with new energy, hope, friendship, and the promise of a future built together. Princess Mira and Toma stood on the highest observation deck, where the stars seemed close enough to touch. The cold breeze of the space station whispered softly, carrying memories of battles fought not just with weapons, but with courage and trust. Mira looked at Toma, her eyes shining brighter than the stars. Do you remember when I first held your hand? She asked, her voice gentle. Toma smiled. I do. I never thought that simple moment would change everything. She laughed softly. You changed everything, not just for me, but for all of us. The galaxy was different now. Old enemies were finding peace. New friends were learning to work together. The unknown fleet, once feared, was now a proud member of the Galactic Unity. But change was not always easy. Mira had learned that being a warrior was more than fighting with strength. It was about fighting for what was right, even when that meant opening your heart. She turned to Toma. You taught me something important. That sometimes true strength is in kindness. Toma shook his head with a smile. No, Mira, you taught me that courage comes in many forms, not just fighting, but forgiving and trusting. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by a message on Mira's communicator. It was from the Unity Council. The Council wants to honor you both, the message said, for your courage, wisdom, and leadership. Mira's eyes sparkled. A great honor. Toma nodded. We did this together. The ceremony was held in the Great Hall, where thousands gathered. Leaders from many worlds came to celebrate the new era of peace. Mira stood tall in her shining armor, Toma beside her. Dressed simply but with pride, the council's head spoke. Today, we honor the leaders, a warrior princess who chose peace over war, and a human who believed in the strength of kindness. The crowd cheered. After the ceremony, Mira and Toma found a quiet place to talk. Do you think the galaxy will stay peaceful? Mira asked. Toma thought for a moment. Peace is not easy. It takes work every day. But I believe we can keep it. Mira smiled. Then let's promise to work together. Always. He took her hand in his once more. Always. Days passed, and the new friendship between their worlds grew stronger. Trade, culture, and knowledge were shared. People learned to understand one another. Mira and Toma often met to discuss ways to build a better future. One day, as they walked through a garden in the Citadel, Mira stopped. "There's something I want to show you," she said. She led him to a small tree, young but strong. "This is the Unity Tree," she explained. "It symbolizes our new beginning." Toma touched the leaves gently. "May it grow as strong as our friendship." As the seasons changed, news arrived of new challenges, small conflicts, misunderstandings, but nothing like before. Mira and Toma faced these challenges together, reminding others that peace was possible. One evening, while watching the twin moons of a nearby planet, Mira turned to Toma. "You know," she said softly, "I was told humans were fragile, but I see now. They are the strongest of all." Toma looked at her with a smile. "And you, Mira, are the bravest warrior I have ever met." They laughed, and the stars above seemed to shine even brighter. The story of the warrior princess and the human spread across galaxies, inspiring others to believe in peace and friendship. Mira and Toma never forgot the simple moment the hand they held, the trust they built, because sometimes the greatest battles are won not with weapons, but with hearts open wide. End of part 7.